that age. And I want to be as vibrant and lively and as active as these three young ladies are. First, we have a lady who is no stranger to any of us. She has a wicked sense of humor. She has a saying, is when she loves to ride around in cars. She loves for people to take her here and take her there, and she says, I'll do this all day long because it's OPG, other people's gas. I like that too. Can we have Miss Helen Daly come in, please? Not only does Miss Daly like to ride around on other people's gas, she also likes to be the center of attention. One of her other favorite sayings is, if I can't be the soap, I don't want to be the sun. Next we have another lady who is a star at the church, and she does all sorts of things. She has an interesting story in her own right. One of her favorite stories is when she first got married, she wanted to host this really, really nice Thanksgiving dinner. She laid it out. She had all the trimmings, the turkey, sweet potatoes, candy yams, same thing. The desserts. But she forgot one thing. She forgot that you had to cook the dressing to put in the turkey. Can we have Miss Phyllis Massey come in, please? So I'm sure you've learned to cook dressing by now. Thank you very much. And next, last but not least, we have a woman who actually said, I don't know anything funny, but if you know her and you sat down and talked to her, you know that she has intellect and a wit that can't be matched. One of the things that has really impressed me with Miss Massey is her memory. She can recite stuff, recite it long, short, ask a question about things that happened 20 years ago, 30 years ago, and she's got it. Can we welcome Miss Talou Massey? Thank you, Miss Massey, for joining us. You can have a seat right here. Well, welcome, ladies. And thank you for joining, and thank the audience for coming out. We're sorry for the delay. We had a few technical delays that have us having a late start. And one of the first things I want to start off with, ladies, is asking you, what is it that encouraged you to say yes when you were asked to be part of this discussion?
I was humbled because I have great respect for Mrs. Talou Massey and Mrs. Helen Daly, and I felt, you don't need me. You got the cream of the crop here. And it was a wonderful feeling of humility in saying yes.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it. How about you, Ms. Daly?
Actually, I wasn't ready, but after my mother told me that I was.
Can we have a little more volume on Ms. Daly's mic, please?
Yes, yes.
So you were coerced.
Yeah.
So are you here as a hostile guest? Or? Are you here as a hostile guest? No. So let's talk about your early life. Where were you all born at? Mrs. Massey, where were you born?
I was born in Birmingham, Alabama, in Jefferson County.
Everybody turn off their cell phones, please.
Please silence your cell phones, put them on vibrate. You were born, go ahead. You were born in Birmingham?
Birmingham, Alabama, in Jefferson County.
And
The date?
Yes, if you'd like to give that to us.
I was born June 2nd, 1917.
Wow. That's awesome.
And Ms. Massey.
I was born in Americus, Georgia, which is 9 miles from Plains. And it was there that I did meet President Carter. So with it being that close to that area. And I went to the elementary school in Americus, Georgia, and then my family moved to Detroit.
Ms. Daly.
I was born in Waverly, Alabama,
That's my grandma.
and I attended was one church school at church. It wasn't a school building there at my time, so we had church at school.
Okay. What was school like? Did you go to regular school, normal school, one-room schoolhouse?
That's my grandmother.
At first, where I attended school, it wasn't a school building. We attended school at church, and then we had it was just one teacher, and she taught from the first through the 8th grade.
Any special memories or anything you remember?
Kinda.
Did you like
I
school?
did.
Did you like it?
Yes, I really enjoyed, going to school. But then sometimes I would, be kind of puzzled as to why we had to walk such a long distance to get to school. We had to walk maybe 5 miles. And then I noticed that the white kids was riding the bus. And sometimes, when the bus would pass us with the white kids, they would roll the glass down and they would, spit on us. And then later on, my parents and some more other people found a different route for us to take. So we walked through the woods but anyway, we didn't have to contend with, the white kids, spitting on us. But they had a beautiful brick building, but we had to attend school in a church. But my mother told us if you're going to learn, it doesn't matter whether it's the church or school.
Okay. Yeah. Ms. Massey, do you have a similar story about school?
I was educated in the Detroit public schools here in Detroit. I left Alabama with my family as a 1-year-old, and I've been here ever since.
Wow.
In school, I loved math and English. History was not my thing. But I took a college prep course in high school, took 1 year of Latin and 2 years of French. I graduated at the age of 16 from high school.
Wow.
I was supposed to graduate at 15, but I was trying to be smart. I took 1 year of history, and I skipped history 2. If you don't take 2, you don't get credit for 1. So I had to stay another 6 months in high school, and my birthday came and I was 16 when I graduated from high school. I took the college course, but I went into Wayne State, walked through the front door and out the back door. I didn't like the wooden floors at Wayne State. But I did go to an upholstery school, and I took a class of upholstery, and I did some upholstery, and then I was taking tests and put in applications for different jobs. I got a job for the government, and I worked 30 years and retired in 1980.
That's amazing.
Leading up to your work, I'd like to hear from Phyllis Massey about school and wondering, did your experiences as a young person influence you to want to become in education?
Very definitely. In America, the schools were segregated because the black folks lived on one side of the town and the white folks on the other side. There was one high school and one elementary school. Fortunately or unfortunately, we lived on the street behind the school. So we could just go out of the back door and go across the playground to get to the elementary school. So at that time, it was just my sister, Alma Washington, and I who were in school. So we went to the elementary school. We've always been active in church. Most of the teachers were from the same church that we went to. So we couldn't get into anything. As soon as something would happen, they would say, I'm going to tell Miss Maggie. And my mother would be right on the case, as well as my sister, Miss Hillary. So leaving, when Mrs. Hillary and, well, my brother-in-law, Clark, and sister Zelma moved to Detroit, they waited until Arona completed high school in Americas so that she would be able to go to college. Well, I didn't realize, and well, the whole family didn't realize that to get in some schools you had to take an exam. So I didn't enroll in the neighborhood high school, but on the first day of school, I ran straight to Cass Tech. And he said, your name isn't on the list. Well, I had no idea that I needed a test. Fortunately, my sister Alona, and if you know her, you know she can express herself very well. So she said, well, she wants to come to this school. And what is the procedure for doing the test? Well, fortunately, there were some tests being given the following weekend. So I was able to take the test, and I was admitted. So I graduated from Cass Tech many, many years ago.
There you go. There you
So along the way, I'm sure you've learned a lot of lessons about life.
Yeah.
And so we're going to kind of be jumping around a little bit. I'm curious for all of you, what are some life lessons that you've learned that you think would be helpful to talk about to a group such as this?
Self-discipline.
Self-discipline.
You have to be in control of yourself in order to go anywhere.
Definitely.
And there are certain steps you have to go through. And I always, being a teacher, I used to often talk to my children about success and opportunities are like an open door. The door is there, but you have to do something to get to the door. After you get to the door, you got to do something else, and that's turn the knob. Now, we know now that many buildings have doors that open like this, but those are only market doors or something. But every door that we see, whether it's a storm door, a wooden door, or a glass door, there's a handle, there's a knob, something that you have to push. And I would often tell the children that when you get to the door, you got to go up some steps. Some of these steps, preparation, discipline, failure sometimes, encouragement, but you got to keep going to get to the door. And when you get to the door and you open it, you still have choices to make. You've got to decide, am I going after wealth? Am I going after power? Am I going after wanting to help somebody? But it's all up to you. Once you get to the door, you've got to know where you want to go. And you can't let somebody come along and say you can't do it.
Well,
If you let somebody say you can't, you won't.
Well, very curious. So, particularly for Ms. Daly and Ms. Toulouse, so coming up in the 1900s, early 1900s, there was a lot of racism. And there were people that when you opened that door, they would spit on you, they would tell you can't come through. They might even threaten to kill you. How did you manage to be successful in spite of all those things happening and discouraging you? So either one of you can jump in.
Well, my parents, taught me that it was something that we didn't have control of. And she would tell us, say, it's still up to you. But wherever you attend school, always strive to do your best. And then it was a man, a friend of my father's. He was the type of person you couldn't tell him anything. And my mother would always tell us, study hard, regardless to where you attend school, and get all the education that you can get. And she said, because I don't want you to grow up and be like a Ralph Thomas.
Did she put his name out there? The whole name? Mama?
Anyways,
Mama.
why she said that,
No chill.
my father, this was my father's friend.
My
And
grandma.
they were discussing about, they said homebrew. But my father, I guess they didn't, being kids, they didn't want us to know what the real name was. But anyway, so my father was checking to see how much the people was going to charge. They had learned to use syrup skimming. Most of you in the city, you don't know what that is. When you make syrup. But anyway, for some men, they were real smart. But they discovered that they could use syrup skimming and make, they call it homebrew. So in the meantime...
So homebrew is a liquor.
Yeah.
That's a moonshine.
But anyway, so my father was supposed to check to see where, they could get the best deal. And his friend Ralph Thomas was supposed to check around. So finally, when Ralph Thomas came back to our house, and he and my father were standing in the yard talking, and he said, my father said, well, Ralph, he said, I found out where we can get, some homebrew. He said, well, $2.50 a gallon. And Ralph Thomas, my father's friend, looked at him. He said, what's this bread? He said, you ain't nothing but a fool. He said, you gonna pay $2.50 a gallon? He said, I know where you can get it for $3.
You know what? And y'all wonder where I get my comedy from? Right here, my grandma. What do you think I'm funny? That's my grandma.
But my mother would always tell her,
Jokes.
study hard. She said, because I don't want you to be like that.
One of the things I was trying to get at with that particular question is, did you experience any race difficulties coming up?
In high school, I did because I attended Eastern High School, and the population was all white, with about 70 blacks in the whole school. And in my French class, there was a white girl and me. The teacher gave us an assignment to learn a story over the weekend. I and this one girl were the only two that learned the story. They had us to write it on the blackboard. When we got our markings, she got a B, I got a C for the same thing. So I brought the paper home and showed it to my mother, and she went up to the school to find out why there was a difference in the grades. Well, the teacher said she has to be better, not on the same
Wow.
level. She has to do better than the whites, in other words. That's why my grade was lower than the girl that was on the same level with me.
How about you, Ms. Phyllis Massey?
When I was at Cass Tech, I would go to the football games alone. I had nobody to sit around because everybody, the other kids had their own cliques. They were, even at that time, Cass Tech had pulled in some of the suburbanites. Kids from other areas went to Cass, and you kind of stayed with your group. In the classrooms, I can't say it was prejudice because my last name began with W. My last name is Wimbish. I was always in the back of the room. So I've always been short, and I'd always have to struggle to see. So I could say that was a form of prejudice, but I did not socialize that much with. They didn't open themselves to me, and the few black kids who were there, we kind of had our little thing too. But when we would go out, it would just be us together. We never had mixed groups.
So in school, what's one of your fondest memories?
My fondest memories? Really, I like to learn. I guess maybe the prom.
The prom. Let's hear about the prom.
Yeah. The prom was at Messiah Temple, and it was a live band. So it was a wonderful experience. And my date passed away not too long ago, and we were still friends. We were always friends. But when I think of my high school, besides the frivolity of the high school prom, I was prepared to take on college courses when I left Cass.
Very good.
Cass kind of made you do it, or else they put you out. You're constantly reminded of your GPA, and we had study hall built in to the school days, so that helped a lot. I enjoyed high school.
Yeah, it sounds like you did. It sounds like you're a pretty good student also.
Well, I didn't get all A's. Don't believe me. No.
Mr. Daly, how about you? You have any fond memories of school?
Yes.
Getting into mischief or?
Pardon?
So were you getting into mischief in school? Did you get into mischief in school?
I'm not hearing you.
Did you get into mischief in school?
Oh. Well, I'm not going to say I was an angel,
Be humble with it.
a little thing you can get into. But when I was growing up until I got in high school, it wasn't too much we could get into. By me growing up on the farm,
Yeah.
it wasn't much we could get into. Because once we walked, maybe like 5 miles to school and 5 miles back home. We had chores to do.
What kind of chores?
Like,
Milking
as I
the
keep
cow.
saying, I grew up on the farm. And when we got home, like we had to have, we call it night water. We didn't have indoor facilities then.
Okay.
So maybe the girls, when we got home, we said we had to get the night water. Night water was enough water to last us all night, so we wouldn't have to go outside because we didn't have, electric.
Okay.
We studied, by the lamp light, or if we didn't have oil for the lamp, then we would have to study by the light from the fireplace.
What was it like the first house that you got that had electricity? What was that like?
Not while I was growing up, but when my parents moved to Phoenix City, I had left home then. That's when, but we never had it when I was growing up there in the rural.
Miss Tallulah Massey, what was growing up like for you? What type of home did you have? Did you have electricity? You have indoor plumbing?
Yes.
Well, you were raised in Detroit.
I was raised in Detroit. There were 6 of us. My father passed when I was 11, and my mother raised 5 of us because my older sister died in 1926. My father passed in 1928, and my mother raised 5 children. And we always had electricity.
What were your parents like?
Very good. They were. My mother wasn't strict, but we knew what to do. We weren't getting into things that kids are getting into today.
So if you really want to get something, would you go to your mom or your dad?
My dad passed. I was only 11 years old, and my mother raised us. So anything we got, we had to go to our mother.
Miss Phyllis Massey, same question.
With the house,
Neighborhood, house, growing
okay.
up.
We lived in a wooden house, and it was a wooden house, and we did have electric lights, but there was no washing machine. I can remember my mother washing in the tubs in the backyard, and she would have 3 tubs, the first one with this stuff, and we had to get the stuff to heat the water though, make the fire for her to have the water hot. And the first wash, then the second tub, and I was always the one who would help with the second tub, because she said the one who got the last one would be sure it's all right. So we helped around the house, and then, when we moved to Detroit, we did have all of those facilities. And my mother, at that point, got a job as a seamstress. Everyone in the family was gifted with sewing ability. My sister Lula, who was Janet's mother, was really the seamstress. She could tailor, she could draft, she could do all of those things. But my mother really planted the seed for this. And when she came to Detroit back in the 40s, with very limited skills, she was able to get a job in a laundry as a seamstress. And it was there that she repaired men's pants in areas that they tear.
Okay.
And
That was nice. You done tore them in your britches. You done tore your britches in your butt.
and people would come from far away just to have her do it, because she would patch underneath and sew over and over. So that was, another means of our support.
So I'm curious for Tallulah and Helen. Did your moms work outside the home? Or was that a different time when they didn't work outside the home?
I don't remember my mother ever having done any work. Occasionally, she worked at the St. Mary's Hospital that was located on Clinton and St. Antoine. I think that's where it was. And she only worked as a nurse's aide whenever any of the nurses went on vacation, she would go and fill in their spots. But that was the only work that she really did.
Well, up until, my mother worked on the farm until I think they moved to Phoenix City. And I believe it was in 46. But then after that, she started, doing domestic work.
What do you think of the changing roles of women now today versus maybe when you were a teenager, in your 20s and your 30s, and now? Do you see a big difference? Do you like what you see?
Yes, because to me, like years ago, more or less, like the ladies' job was always like at the house.
Okay.
Okay, so in other words, to me, like she would have to dance by her husband.
Come through.
But
That's good. Thank you. So, Ms. Taluma, what do you think of the changing roles of women in 2016?
Well, women are beginning to take the place of the men now. Women at one time were homebound, taking care of the children and cooking dinners and things like that. But now they're taking a more positive role in being bosses and executives and what have you. And this is making women, well, come out a little more.
Do you think, Phyllis Mass, do you think that women are better off now than?
I definitely do. I think Title IX was really something that made a difference in the lives of women and really the world, because women are in every profession, and they should be. Sports, they should have a part in it. And I think recently there have been some female referees or umpires that are in training. So women are capable of doing anything. You know, we rule the world.
Yes, come through.
So we're going to talk a little more personally. So all of you have been married, and I want to hear about when you met that special guy and what that was like. Who would like to go first? And then I'm going to ask you, where was your first date to?
my first,
No, when you, the guy that you married, where was your first date?
I don't remember. I can tell you where I met him.
Okay, where'd you meet him?
In Old St. Paul.
Okay.
So I was attending Sunday school. And every Sunday school, he would want to borrow a pen.
You brought a pen every week, did you?
Apparently he didn't,
So
because
you brought one to make sure you have
do you
one.
have a pen? A couple of times, you know, I let him use the pen. So then I said to my cousin, I said, her name was Zora Hicks. I said, Zora, this heavyset fella, every Sunday, he wants to borrow a pen. She said, well, maybe he has eyes for you. I said, but no, not me. I said, because he's kind of on the heavy side. So I thought, you know, he had a misunderstanding. You know, I thought he was kind of abusive, you know, person.
Yeah.
But it didn't happen that way. He was the most wonderful.
Hey, so what melted your heart when you said, you know what, I'm going to give this guy a chance?
Yeah, it must have been that because he was the most wonderful person ever.
Wow.
That Saturday when we went to Reverend Charleston's house, I shall never forget it. 26, I think it was the 26th of March in 1949.
Wow, to the date.
That was the day.
So what happened on that day that made you?
She got married? I
Can't tell you.
said I got married.
So, Phyllis Massey, let's hear your story about how you met your husband.
Oh, I met my husband in 1956 at the Kappa House.
Oh.
My sister's owner's husband, Andrew, was a Kappa.
Are you Greek?
Oh,
I don't get that in.
yeah. But the NAACP was having its national convention here, and the Kappas were having an open house. and my husband was there. My husband-to-be was there. And we kind of met and we started talking, but it took 3 years to get married.
So did you take your breath away from across the room?
Yeah.
Wow.
So in that day, who made the first move, you or him?
It took him a month. I guess he had to get rid of his.
Competition.
Get your side chicks.
Yeah, I guess he had to create space.
Okay. You have it going on. You still do. So,
But I enjoyed being married, and I was married, happily married for 30 years.
we're going to come back. I gave you a question in the back. We're going to come back. I want to hear from Miss Massey about how she met her husband.
Well, he was one of the boys that grew up in the neighborhood. He was our paper boy, for one thing. And he and I did attend the same high school, but we weren't interested in each other or anything. And I don't know how it finally broke down. He approached me. I didn't approach him. And he got a job in there was a theater on the corner of Madison and Shane, and he worked there, and he would get tickets and pass them out to his friends, and I was one of the friends, and he would pass out the tickets to, and we could go in the show. And then I guess we just got connected that way.